everyone. I'm Yogesh Mudras, Managing Director of Info Markets in India. Welcome you all again to this leadership conversations with the thought leaders. It's a great pleasure for me today to have Mr. Rami Tolba, Regional Director of ANSEL, one of the world's leading OSH and PPE company, as a part of our Super September Leadership Series. Welcome, Rami. Welcome to our Leadership Series conversations. Thank you for being a part of this.
Thank
As I
you, Yogesh,
mentioned in
and
the
happy to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you. As mentioned in my last interactions, in fact, Info Markets continues to do its Super September, one of its kinds, virtual B2B celebrations, where we are doing powerful array of 6 digital expos in 6 key verticals in this month of September. We have completed already our second edition of Occupational Health and Safety Virtual Expo last week. It received a fantastic response. Our endeavor is to help communities and business overcome their limitations of lockdown, achieve their business goals, and provide a powerful edge as the economy readies itself to get back on track. As a part of this leadership interaction series, we are bringing these thought leaders to you to share their exclusive interactions and thoughts about what's happening in the industry and how they are planning to come out of this pandemic situation and what they see for their own respective industries ahead. And also something about their own leadership thoughts. So let me begin my Q&A by introducing Rami. Rami Tolba is Regional Director with ANSEL. He is head of their industrial business and is responsible for Middle East and Africa, Mediterranean and Indian subcontinent region, a very wide region. Originally coming from the UK and oil and gas industry, Rami has now worked nearly 15 years heavily in the health and safety industry across Europe, as well as emerging markets in various positions and industry segments. He has developed a vast knowledge and what truly drives the industry, common trends, and helping companies with building the strategies and technical plans across emerging markets and safeguarding their employees by delivering the best in the class personal protective equipment to the industry with full technical and commercial support from his organization, ANSEL. Rami, in addition to being an extensive HSC and strategic experience that he has, is also a well-trained Six Sigma Black Belt and also PMP certified professional. What a varied background that we have today to talk about. And so when I begin my question, I think the first thing which I would like to ask you, Rami, is one of the very basic tenets of mental well-being is work-life balance, as we all know, which now experts are terming it as work-life integration. How do you see it and how do you advocate it on a personal and a broader level? We would love to hear your thoughts about it.
Very, very nice question there, Yogesh. And I think a lot of people currently are suffering burnout rates at a quite an alarming level, especially during the COVID times, where I think a lot of people have been very stretched to the limit. You know, number one, thank you for our first line responders. Thank you for our people who are protecting the lives of the various governments. You know, whilst you're doing that, it does create a very much a higher element of service and dedication to your job. And unfortunately, what that does is it creates an imbalance between your work and life, work and life balance. So, you know, it's essential that people take short breaks in between. And that's something that even me, I'm guilty of. The first thing I did after 3 or 4 months of intense COVID firefighting, you know, helping to make sure that our customers were supplied on time, going through the challenges between governments politically and socially, is that I wanted to do something which would make a release. And initially, it's usually the usual traits of traveling, which some people were enjoying during pre-COVID times. And that was their way of switching off. But during COVID lockdown, there were a lot of restrictions. And of course, there had to be a new challenge for me personally to find, to be able to switch off from work. And that was, you know, to get healthier, to lose some weight. And over the last 3 months, especially, I took it to myself to be a healthy individual. I'm about 10 kilos lighter and obviously a healthier leader for my team and also for my family, which is critical. So healthy mind, healthy body really helps you to be able to perform when you're in a difficult work commitment in terms of work levels. So I find short, frequent breaks, exercise are the keys to success here.
Just to say that your thoughts on healthy mind and healthy body are really welcome. I think we all look forward to the short breaks where we can rejuvenate ourselves and exercise and keep those thoughts in mind. So I'm sure there are some great thoughts. I think one more thing which comes to my mind is that many thought leaders in OSH space have called for development of a regional strategy, in fact, for on occupational health and safety. So what is your opinion over here on the same? So do you think there's a regional strategy that is needed over here? How does this synergize at a workplace, or how do you prefer, or whether it should be a national strategy or a regional strategy? What would you go by? Because you come with a vast experience of handling multiple regions. So how are you doing it?
Well, I can say I have the pleasure of engaging with multiple regions and multiple cultures. And for me here, really the key is consensus. And we live in a lot of different environments, both in terms of climate, but also in terms of the criteria of culture. I'm very lucky to be managing regions of hot climate, tropical climate, cold climate, rainy climate, and really each one in terms of, let's, for instance, put in the PPE, have different requirements and different needs, whether it's heated, whether they want cooling effects in their products. And here is where, you need to make sure that you're tackling in a lot of those respects, those regional priorities. I think synergy here is the only common ground that people can agree on. There may be certain parameters of a PPE law or a OSH law that can be replicated across multiple regions. However, it's not one size fits all by all means. I think first, since we're emerging markets, and that's actually a very good, I would first dedicate it to national level. And the reason why I say that is I still think the national laws could be improved significantly in emerging markets. I think they need to be updates. There needs to be a lot more work done on a national level before we start to engage on a regional discussion with regards to regulating PPEs or, in fact, safety regulations. I think that's needed first. And I think once that is done, which will take a lot of time. I mean, if we look at Europe and the US, they implemented these rules and regulations since the 60s and 50s. So it's taken 70 years of development. And emerging market, I think it's going to be a lot quicker, but it still needs its own time. So I think, yes, initially national will be the right way to do it. And I think at a later stage, regional synergies will then be implemented into a framework.
Yeah, absolutely. I think very valid, because each country is at a different level of transition and how they have implemented the rules and regulations. As you said, Europe and the Americas have done it right from 50s and 60s, while we in India see it's now getting there. Now people are understanding the need for those regulations and implementation of various policies. So I think that really makes sense that we first implement at a national level and then we regionalize. So I think very, very valid. Great point, Rami. And I think that takes me to a next question of bringing human element into the picture. We see that it has been said that human unsafe acts are actually the cause of approximately 88% of all workplace accidents, and it entails a revolution in the behavior-based safety and safety leadership. How far are we from bringing this about, the safety revolution or safety leadership that we are talking of?
Well, in my opinion, we have to say that, technology, innovation, and social media are going to play a big part here. We've made a lot of progress in this area, but let's not forget that behavior stems from both cultural and educational traits. And hence media and education will continue to provide a huge learning curve during the area of development, especially emerging markets, as we drive this forward. I think we have a long way to go, but I'm quite confident that the evolution of behavior-based safety will move a lot quicker in the next 10 years than it did in the last 30 or 40 years. So we're in the realm of how do we get there quicker rather than, how to make it better. So I think things will take precedence in terms of timelines, and especially in our markets, that's very important. And the way I see it, every day we're seeing more awareness being done virtually. We're seeing this is a great example of a virtual interaction, but there are many others as well. So I think with education and social media, I think those will be two keys to drive that in order to change the social fabric of behavior within the safety culture.
Yeah, that's a great point. Education, education and uses technology of social media to educate people to on those social fabric. I think great points. Coming to your company, in fact, Rami, Ansell is reputed for its broad-based product range and innovation with a special focus on gloves. Can you take us through the same? What has been brought to the fore with this pandemic situation, and what would be the focus of your company in the future in terms of PPE and other equipment, really?
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, Ansell is a safety company. You know, we pride ourselves, not only do we serve our customers with our best-in-class PPE and being, market leaders, but we also make sure that we are followed suit and have a culture of safety within the company, which not only helps our employees be safe and to have a very high safety record in the industry, but also it gives us great insights into the challenges of our customers, which are faced on a daily basis, especially during the pandemic. Customers' biggest concern was the ability for everyone's ability to supply. This, of course, became one of our focal points. We also realized very quickly that demand was outstripping supply by 5 to 1. So that is quite a significant jump. If you think about it, for every month of production, there will be 5 months of demand. And of course, in that perspective, we had to have other major challenges to address, keeping our operations at full speed across our plants, because, we have multiple plants across the world, and governments were imposing heavy lockdowns in these various countries. We also had to make sure that our people in those plants were also secured, safe, operating in a manner which is compliant with governmental regulations, but also social distancing and hygiene. So a lot of this also had to be implemented in a very short period of time. Logistics operations were affected, where we saw certain governments across the world, had chronic shortages of PPE and were restricting exports out of their countries in order to be able to safeguard their own national stockpile. So there was a lot of challenges politically, socially, ethically to deal with across, and with a sense of urgency. We know that the virus was spreading quite fast. So with the excellent supply chain team that we had, we were working extensively across the globe, across multiple time zones, in order to make sure, first of all, our employees were safe. That was the main goal of the company, both remote employees and employees where we had locations. But also we had to do that whilst ramping up capacity in order to be able to serve this extra demand. And unfortunately, when you have 5 times the demand, you have to be very selective of your customers and really be able to, first of all, cater to our first responders, frontline workers. These were our first priority, along with a lot of our existing customers, to keep their operations running. We see this as being a continuous trend. We're not out of the backorder situation yet. We see these trends continuing. We have made multi-million-dollar investments in expanding multiple source capabilities, but also implementing multi-capacity additions and expansions across the globe in order to get to our customers' needs quicker, but also to help satisfy the demand.
Oh, Rami, I think you're in a sweet spot where you have a demand of ratio 5:1. I think any industry, any company would love to be in that kind of position. But I can understand where you prioritize your customers. I think that's a great way of looking at things. But now, when I come to beyond your customers to geographies, say, how do you customize your products for each regional sector? Because in the previous question you mentioned that each country is at a different level of evaluation in terms of regulations and protocols. So what are the product categories according to you that would work best, say in an Indian subcontinent where the rules are still evolving as compared to say Middle East, which is much evolved market in terms of regulations? So what are your thoughts about it?
Well, again, here's where the cultural aspect plays a big part, and local regulations. We make our product categories related to the local market needs. What works in the Middle East wouldn't necessarily work in India, wouldn't necessarily work in South Africa, wouldn't necessarily work in North Africa. So we want to make sure that we work with the country knowledge, and our local presence is what really helps in this aspect. So we have local people in the ground in India who are Indian nationals, know the industry quite well, have 20 plus years of experience, understands what works and what doesn't work, and we really look at fostering that growth. But if we look at the categories of growth, I know initially you would say, well, it would be products like COVID-related products that would drive the industry, but that's not the case. We actually see fastest growing category is where we create the most value for our customers. So, there's been a lot of investment in India over the past 5 years, both foreign and domestic. And we see that a lot with products, geared towards, chemical protection, biological protection, with chemical industries, pharma industries. We see a lot of heavy duty products also being required for the market, such as high heat, electrical protection, etc. So we focus on those. Of course, we still have a significant customer base for our what we call reusable, disposable market products, such as single-use gloves, etc., etc. So we don't shy away. So honestly speaking, the growth is in India in general has been quite good across multiple industries, not just a specific one. And what we do is we tend to focus the products to really tackle the needs of those industries through, of course, number one, our partners and our employees, territory managers.
Excellent. I think what you're saying is think global but act local. So that's what you meant by having your team on the ground to understand the local market. So I think that's a great way of running a multinational corporation with offices in so many places. Yeah, great thoughts. Now coming to our part of business that we do, the trade expos, and I'm sure you have participated in various trade expos over the year. How has it helped in promoting your business, Answer's business over the years? What are your thoughts about it?
The traditional expo is always great. I mean, we get to meet a lot of new customers, a lot of new partners. We also look at new avenues to grow, both in terms of verticals, but also in terms of products. It's what we used to have quite a robust schedule whilst we were in these expos, to meet our customers and meet our partners or suppliers even. But during that time, it was also very good to see what was going on in the industry, some new innovation, technology development, and also to attend some of the educational seminars that were being presented in that fashion. So that for me was good, very good. It's a good platform, no doubts.
Great, thanks. I think it gives us belief that trade shows, despite the pandemic, are really what will stay. But also that brings me to a newer question, which, as you know, we are all virtual. I would love to come. Of course, you're in Dubai, and but I'd love to come to Dubai and meet you in your office. So that face-to-face is going to be there. But currently, we are all virtual, and we are doing a lot of virtual events as we speak. So what do you think are the strengths of virtual events? Are you getting that kind of benefits through your virtual events, the ROI that you are really expecting? And once the live events come back, once the pandemic recedes, and when the live event come back into picture, do you think there's a future for hybrid model of doing events where we could have physical events happening alongside virtual events? So there's a need for both this kind of events. So what are your thoughts about it?
Well, first of all, I'm very happy to be participating in this virtual event. I think for our company, it's critical, but also for our customers that they see us being present in both platforms. You know, our traditional way of doing business, but also being able to adapt to new technologies. I think that's critical for our customers as well. You know, let's be honest, virtual expos will certainly be a way forward for doing business alongside the traditional face-to-face. I think what really contributes to accelerating the business is looking at this new avenue of digital platforms. You know, if I take a good case in point, you know, the regions that we manage are relatively large. If we look at in Africa, for instance, it's an entire continent, you know, which includes 100 plus countries. It's impossible for us to be at the customer level every time. So we need to use these virtual platforms, not only for us, but also for our customers who are in remote locations. So I think virtual will definitely be a big part of the play of the future. I think also the interactions will be more shorter, more to the point, because I know that people spending long time in their chairs is also not beneficial. So there will be increased relevance, efficiency in driving meetings virtually with remote customers, and that will benefit them, I think, in a lot of aspects. The trick here is how to be effective in delivering the content that you want in an interactive way and to the point. I think that will evolve over the next 2 to 3 years in the industry in general. But it will also benefit the customers because it will help bring our costs down to be able to pass on that saving to them. So I think it's definitely will be a hybrid model will probably be the way to go in the future.
So I think what you are trying to say here is the hybrid models will evolve. You feel that there's a need for both this kind of face-to-face, but alongside with the virtual. So it's a great way. And I think even virtual events will evolve in the future where they can be more specific focus and content. I think very important point that the content is going to be the king. Really, if you bring a good content, and then people will definitely love to be there. So great
Absolutely.
thought. But any just emerging trends you are seeing in these exhibitions or expos that as we as organizers need to take care of for your requirement particularly? So what would you look in the future from as emerging trends for trade expos?
For the future, again, I think for emerging markets, the key here again is, for me, education and empowerment is always the key. And especially in the Indian subcontinent, I think with such a great population and diverse culture, you know, I would like to see a better emphasis on educating people, you know, who are responsible for safety to enforce that message. Safety is not just a banner exercise. And this is something which unfortunately, not only in India, but in our emerging markets is a common practice, you know, where we have great visual displays of safety first, and then you'll see a guy on site not wearing any type of PPE. And I think, you know, by educating and empowering our safety individuals within the organization, number one, they'll transfer that education to their peers, superiors, and colleagues. But not just by doing the needful, but simply is not good enough anymore. Yeah, it's about going that extra mile to educate and to ensure and care about that person who's working next to you or on the shop floor, is making sure that they're being protected correctly, and having that sense of sharing and caring. For me, is an instrumental part of what we want to do in future guidelines. And I think with our positions, it's important that, you know, in trade exhibitions, education will always be a forefront, and empowerment will be a forefront of developing the industry. So for me, that will be something which I'd like to see a lot more in virtual expos, a lot more of educational seminars, and how to advance the industry. So that for me is critical.
Great thoughts, Rami. I think I've noted it down for future OSH shows. I understand that leaders like you, what you really expect when you come to a show. So I'll definitely keep that noted, and I'll definitely inform the team to work on content with the great, that is going to be the key for the future. But I think that brings me to a bit of it's actually the final question for today for you, but I think something on You are a leader par excellence. You are leading your company across multiple continents, across multiple countries, and brings me to what are your leadership traits? What do you feel are the two or three common elements which, as a leader, you imbibe, you follow, and you'll want to advise to our listeners or viewers to think about, and how they can use in their own personal lives in the future to lead their own companies and their own teams?
Um, Very nice question. I would say there's, I'm very happy to be number one. Teamwork is incredibly important. I mean, for me, you know, it's easy to take a decision as an individual. It's much more difficult to get consensus. And for me, consensus for me is a lot of brains working towards driving to one decision. For me, that makes my life not only easier, but also it incorporates elements of trustworthiness within the people that we get consensus. So consensus is something which I'm always constantly striving to get. Integrity, for me, that's the most important part. When I go see a customer in Turkey, or I see a customer in South Africa, or when I see a customer in India, trustworthiness and integrity is the first thing they look for. And that's when you say something and commit to something, you're able to deliver. False promises is unfortunately a real bad thing in the industry, and I think being open and transparent with your customers when you cannot support them or when you can support them is very important. The third thing is passion. I'm a very passionate guy. I'm always driven, both in my private life and also in my work life. I think passion is what wakes us up in the morning and creates us to create something new for the industry, but also gives maximum, is really appreciated by a lot of our customers as well. They feel that you're equally involved in the industry. So passion for me is very important, and I'm very demanding from my team to have that passion within them, and in a positive way. I mean, the idea is that we should all be passionate about what we're doing. If you're not passionate, you don't get the results you want. You don't make your customers happy. So for me, passion is definitely at the forefront of what I do and my team.
What a way to end. I think passion is, I think it's probably the baseline for all these things. If you have that passion to do things, I think work doesn't remain work for you. In fact, it becomes your living. I think in great ways, great trust, transparency, passion. You talked about teamwork. So many great points for a lot of our viewers to take away from. I think great, but I think it's been fantastic meeting you, Rami. For
And
me,
you,
it's been first
Yogesh.
time face to face for you, but I think great, and I look forward to staying connected and meeting you at some point once this pandemic
Absolutely.
things. I
I
think
look forward to
either
meeting you in
Dubai or
India.
invite,
Yes.
yeah, in coming to India for a Roche physical show whenever you could. I think great. We'll look forward to meeting you, and thanks for your time so much.
It was
And
my
great.
pleasure. And thank you very much for hosting me as well. I
Thank
appreciate it.
you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Have a
Have
nice
a
day.
great day.